Hello.
Is this Charlie?
This is.
This is Sergent Rodriguez with Osceola County Sheriff's Office. How are you?
Not too well.
How can I help you?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how or why is it that your department or your police officer is actually facilitating harassment.
I'm sorry.
Mm.
Okay, talk to me now.
So I'm just trying to figure out how or why is it your department or that particular police officer's policy or discretion to facilitate harassment.
Okay. How is that, you gotta tell me a little bit more of how a deputy is facilitating harassment.
Well, that deputy was on a call because I was contacted by someone who previously has been informed not to contact me, who has been previously informed to seek mental health services if they would like to contact me. And that officer was there simply to figure out whether or not this person is experiencing memory loss or does not recall the previous incidents in which they should be informed that they're contacting me without contacting a mental health provider or others previously would only be harassment, or they are well aware of what they're doing and are intending to harass. That was the only purpose of the call, to find out whether or not this person is experiencing memory loss or is purposely contacting me. Somehow or another, that is that that is not what resulted from their communication on the call.
Okay. So in regards to us evaluating someone for memory loss, we're not doctors. That's something that only a
You don't have to be a
trained
doctor for that. That's exactly the point. Like, all it is this person has been informed not to contact me. This person has also been informed to contact mental health services. They didn't do it. You don't have to be a doctor to evaluate whether or not they remember that happening or not. It's just an answer.
Okay, so we can do the following. Are you anywhere around to meet?
No.
Okay. So where are you currently at?
In California.
Okay. So, I mean, so in order for us to meet and you provide a sworn statement to whatever the fact may be, you need to be present.
I don't have to be present. And again, these limitations are exactly what I'm saying. You're making it so what can't be answered or addressed right now is whether or not a crime has happened. That's what your entire, both the previous officer and you as a sergeant, right now, your goal is to delay any investigation as to whether or not someone's health and safety is correct, or whether a crime has happened. I can provide a sworn statement via affidavit and notarized paperwork. That can be done. However, that delays things. Again, and it's not necessary, because what you're doing is assuming that I am trying to harass the other person. In other words, that I am making up whether or not this person has ever received information that they should either contact mental health services or not contact me. You're basically assuming that I'm lying about it, need to somehow swear on the Bible before you can even just ask whether or not the other person is aware that that has happened previously. Don't you see how that's facilitating harassment and delaying any kind of investigation, whether or not the person is safe themselves or whether a crime has occurred?
Okay. Do you have text messages or phone calls proving that there is harassment?
Again, yes, all that is there. However, I'm in California, and as you said, if you can either take my word for it and simply ask the person whether or not, assuming my word is correct, do they remember that occurring or not? So we can actually move forward, you yourself and me, as far as having some sort of information as to what's going on, rather than leaving it as you are currently, in which it is unknown whether a person is experiencing mental health problems or is purposely trying to harass me. In other words, you're defaulting to, let's not investigate anything, and if anything's going on, let it continue to happen.
Okay. So here's the deal. Okay. I need to, whenever I go to investigate a crime, right? I understand that you're giving me a verbal statement, but I need to verify and identify who you are. I need for you to swear and affirm that what you're telling me on a sworn written statement is what it is, and then we need to evaluate the evidence at hand that would fit the violation of Florida state statute for the crime that you're stating is.
Again, you're correct, but you're also skipping due process or putting it all on you. In other words, for the evidence to be evaluated properly, it would be a judge. Again, this is one of the odd things about this situation, which is you're acting like you're judge and jury as to whether or not anything is going on, whether or not someone is experiencing mental health problems, whether or not there's a crime involved, whether or not anything should be done. You're literally making it so I can't do anything about the fact that I've been contacted by someone who is either a family member, someone I care about, and they apparently care about me because they were contacting me in belief that they're not trying to hurt me, but that would require them to completely disregard all the prior facts and interactions that indicate that that person has been informed that they either need mental health services or should not contact me.
Hey, Frank, because 1097, I'll go ahead and block the inside lane for you.
Okay, so ultimately, what is it that you would like me to do?
Well, it's not. Again, this isn't about me wanting anything, because what I've wanted is very simple: to find out whether or not the person who contacted me, who lives in your city, who may be a danger to themselves or others if they're experiencing severe memory loss and or other mental health symptoms, whether or not that's what has occurred. Simply that. That's supposed to be both mine and your goal, the safety of the citizens. That's it.
If I told you that we made contact with that person,
but making contact with that person, disregarding what the reason for contacting them is, makes no sense, and that's what's happened. You've made contact with them with absolute disregard as to why you contacted them. In other words, that deputy contacted them as if they were just walking down the street and happened to run into each other. And she was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" My aunt said, "Fine," and then went on. As if they weren't called to ask specific questions when they interacted with that person.
Okay, well, I mean, like you said, you're in California. You weren't present when my deputy responded and spoke to the person in question.
No, but your deputy called me and told me exactly what you're saying, which is she made contact and she's fine, with complete disregard as to why the contact was made. This phone call is about something that simple. It's about the fact that your officer made contact with someone, reported that they made contact with them, however, completely disregarded the reason why they made contact with them.
Okay. So, like I said, everything checks out fine.
No, it doesn't, because again, we haven't addressed the fact that the reason why they made contact has not been resolved. Even this phone call I'm having with you, the reason why I made contact with you hasn't been resolved. I made contact with you because still there has not been proper contact with reasoning to the party who was displaying mental health symptoms. You stated that you need somehow more ways to verify what has occurred previously more than just my word. I've said to you that can be provided. You then went on to something which is incorrect, which is that you would have to evaluate the evidence and everything else, which is not necessarily true as far as any further than accepting the evidence and then investigating it further. You yourself don't evaluate the evidence. That is done in a courtroom. You do investigate the evidence. And so the evidence is my word. I can provide you screenshots. I can provide you copies. I can provide you a sworn statement. Hey, these are the communications I've had with this person previously that state, please don't contact me. These are the communications I've had that state, please contact a mental health professional to address these symptoms that you're having. How can I get that to you?
Okay. Well, evidence is not. So what you say, the statements made verbally is not evidence. That's hearsay. Evidence, it's physical evidence leading towards a crime.
Exactly. And again, this is the point. You're going on semantics here rather than addressing the fact that currently there is a citizen in your city who is either experiencing severe mental health symptoms, including memory loss, or is purposely wanting to commit crimes. That is literally what's happening. That's not hearsay. That's a fact. And so
we can provide resources for mental health. We can point people in the right direction, but we don't evaluate.
Well, again, you're going off into random circles. The purpose of this call is the fact is your officer didn't provide those resources. And the reason why those resources weren't provided was because, again, the purpose of this call is that your officer went on a call, made contact with a citizen in which the officer completely disregarded any reasoning as to why the officer made contact with a citizen. And then again, your officer on a call, on a directive to contact a citizen, contacted that citizen as if they had no prior knowledge as to why they would contact that citizen. They simply just said, hey, hello, how are you doing? The citizen said, I'm fine, and then went on with complete disregard to the fact that the officer was called to the scene for a purpose.
Okay. We did our due diligence. My deputy made an assessment. And
the assessment wasn't made because there's no regard to the fact as to why they were called. Right now, what you're saying is again, it's a conundrum. What you're saying is that in all situations, I could be calling because someone's breaking in my house right now. But what you would require is for me to submit evidence to the court that that's not hearsay before you can investigate it. That's what you're saying.
No.
How is that different than this situation then?
Listen, we did our due diligence. We acted.
Again, listen, answer the question so that we can move forward. How is that different? How is it different from me reporting a crime that I've seen with my own eyes and this situation in which someone has contacted me? They've contacted me. I've seen it with my own eyes. There's records of it on my phone. And that fact that has happened is important to refer to when contacting the citizen.
What proof do you have on your phone that you've seen with your own eyes?
Again, text messages, social media. Again, so are you assuming? I want to, Sergeant. This is important, Sergeant. This is important. Are you assuming that I am calling or have called without any evidence that I've been contacted?
If you're not going to listen, I'm going to end this conversation, okay? Because What I'm trying to tell you is, if you have evidence that you said you've seen with your own eyes, you live in California, contact your local authorities. If you believe,
Sir, you're going in circles. I need an answer to this. Do you believe that I called? Excuse me. Do you believe that I called without having been contacted first?
106 code 23 is a 1045 requesting to speak to your reference. So signal 10 recovered from yesterday.
Hello?
Sir, do you believe that I called a wellness check in on my aunt without having been contacted by her first?
Listen, I don't know, because you're going in circles.
Well, no, but you are as well. So, in other words, do you again? This is extremely important, sir. There's a very big difference whether or not I've called in a wellness check out of nowhere, just randomly, decided I thought my aunt was in danger, or the fact is that I received communications from her that indicate that she is experiencing some sort of mental health symptoms. So can you confirm which is your understanding as to what has occurred?
I don't know what occurred.
Well, you're saying that you can't go by any evidence that of what has occurred. So are you assuming that me and everyone who calls in a wellness check does so without any evidence as to reasoning for it?
Yeah, some people do.
Okay, some people do. Are you assuming that I do as well?
No, I'm not assuming at all.
Okay, so how is it again that I can resolve that matter so that it's not assumed one way or the other, but it's actually known what is occurring?
Contact your local authorities.
Why would I contact my local authorities when it is your responsibility to investigate your citizen?
I can't meet with you. You're a citizen of California.
You don't need to meet with me. I haven't done anything in Florida. Again, the person who lives in Florida is who you're being asked to check up on.
You have some proof of whatever you're stating.
Yes, the proof exists. Again, it's about how is it that you want to receive the proof.
We did our due diligence. We checked on this person.
You did not do your due diligence because, again, you yourself are saying that you didn't review any evidence. So why are you talking in circles? Why is it that you can't just address things very clearly? You didn't do your due diligence. The reason we're speaking is because due diligence wasn't done. If due diligence was done, then you could answer the question whether or not the person contacted me purposely or not.
Listen, sir, I think we're not getting anywhere.
Well, exactly. So how is this the only way that you investigate your officer's conduct, or is there an actual formal way to have an investigation into your officer?
I mean, what did my officer do wrong?
Well, I've said it very clearly. Your officer went to a site they were called on and then proceeded to operate and conclude investigation without any regard as to why they were called to the scene.
Okay, they went there in regards to a wellness check. They did
For what reason?
because you stated that that person is having memory loss or potentially needing of mental health assistance.
And what due diligence was done to address that?
Make contact with that person. Do our screening that we do by Florida State statute.
Does your screening address whether or not that person has memory loss?
We are not doctors. And we
No,
cannot-
so exactly. So you did it. So again, the point is due diligence wasn't done. And so that is what needs to be investigated. Again, listen, sir, all that I'm trying to do is make sure that this doesn't continue to happen for other people.
No suspect, 10 12,
Listen. I cannot give a diagnosis.
No one's asking you to. Again, you're jumping through weird circles. You're going all over the place. I would say that you're experiencing mental health problems. I am just simply trying to focus on getting the officer's behavior and conduct investigated. That's it.
You are asking me or my deputy to make a diagnosis.
No, I am not. Again, it seems that you're experiencing mental health problems. I am not. I'm saying very clearly to you, sir, I need to have a formal investigation as to the actions and conduct of your deputy, simply because it has resulted in delaying or hindering getting any information as to whether or not a citizen is safe or whether or not that citizen intends to do crimes. That is the reason why it is necessary to have a further investigation. I am trying to focus on having a further investigation. You have said it can't be done during this phone call. I'm trying to move forward and see the other avenues to initiate and conduct an investigation into her conduct.
Okay. Listen. I'll take care of what I gotta take care of on our end, acting in accordance to Florida State statute. And I assure you everything's going to be okay.
Okay, bro, I don't give a fuck. You're not in the mob. You're a cop. What is the procedure to have an official investigation into the conduct of the officer's actions on a call?
Okay, but you have to tell me what kind of...
I've already done that. So are you trying to say to me that you are the only person who investigates whether or not an officer has committed misconduct?
I do not investigate that.
Okay, so how is that investigated?
There's a process to investigate that.
And the process is?
Internal affairs.
And so do I need to call a different number?
I don't think we need to. We can probably get the outside lane open up once that declared area.
How do I contact internal affairs?
Listen, sir. You're not able to tell me what my deputy did wrong.
No one, and you, neither are you. Again, you are part of a fucking hierarchy. You're a cop. You're not a fucking gangster, motherfucker. You're not in the streets. You're part of a hierarchy. And so therefore, I am asking you how to get that reviewed.